This is the Quality Grind podcast presented by Medvacon. Conversations that go beyond compliance. Sharing insights geared toward helping you navigate the everyday grind of regulated life science industries. Here are your hosts, Joe Toscano and Mike Kent.
Welcome back to The Grind, everyone, and to the continuation of our discussion with former comedian and current compliance training expert, Ronnie Feldman. So far, we've discussed the science, the application of yes and from improvisation, and how psychological safety and pattern disruption play a leading role in improving the effectiveness of compliance training in regulated environments. In part 2, Ronnie discusses more of the creative wrappers he's used to package compliance training. These wrappers help open people up to the important messages and concepts we relay, and that the audience needs to adopt back on the job. So let's jump back into the conversation with Ronnie Feldman in part 2 of Entertaining Better Training here on The Grind. But you talk about wrapping important topics in more creative wrappers. And those creative examples, you touched on your intention around the word entertainment over fun and goofing off and everything else. We're not diluting the message. We're not discounting the message. We're not discounting the importance. To your point, we're putting it in a wrapper, in a package that's more engaging, that people will want, that people will connect with. And oh, by the way, will actually reach out for more. Which, if we get to that point when we're having those problems of, we've got all these people that are now asking questions about what they should do, or asking for more training on a particular subject because they want to understand it better. What great problems to have. So talk to us a little bit about how we can package our training, maybe more specifically dive in a little deeper. What can we use that you found really effective for those boring, critically important topics to engage people with?
So I'm hearing two different questions in that, and I want to.
I'm famous for that, by the way. Yeah, my apologies.
Okay. I like to take notes so I don't forget.
Yeah.
So let's talk about creative techniques. But I want to come back to, like, ultimately for people who, if this is interesting, we can help them build a better business case, which there's a couple of ways to do that.
Perfect.
But yeah, some of the creative wrappers, I mean, I always say, like, I'm not inventing these things. I'm just borrowing the different entertainment conventions that I like in my everyday life. Well, look, this is not the most creative thing, but we say storytelling is a good one, right? Example I use is half of the trainings have like a case study built in. John and Jill did da 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 da. This and this, whatever it is, right? It's a case.
Yes.
Here's a scenario. This happened. What do you do? But most problems that occur in the workplace are really interesting, and we tend to just suck all the fun out of it. So I created a series called Tales from the Hotline, and all I did was I interviewed 15 different compliance officers from different industries, and I basically asked them to submit me stories, what really happened, and they all sent me these case studies, and I was like, I go, just get on the phone with me. Tell me what happened. They're like, oh my God, we had this guy and he did, and do you believe that he did this? And they did that. And that's what they thought. Like, you can't make this stuff up. And they're telling it like that. And I go, this is super interesting. Why aren't we presenting it that way? So I recorded them. I changed names and dates. I hired comedians to retell these stories just to sort of anonymize it a little bit. And they're really fun and interesting. I mean, corruption, bribery, harassment, discrimination. It's not fun, but they're interesting, right? So one is storytelling. Tell an interesting story, has a beginning, middle, and end, has heroes and villains, has a conflict that's overcome. You know, you can just Google what a good story is. I mean, we all know it when we hear it. Just
Yeah, that's entertaining, that's engaging. People are gonna gravitate
There's
towards
no jokes in it.
that.
Like, we're not
Yeah.
telling jokes. We're talking like a human being, the way human beings actually talk when you're at a bar, at a restaurant with your friends and family. Talk like
Right,
uh,
right.
I love the idea of music, as you've heard me reference several times, and this is why. Um, Humor is polarizing. We all have a different sense of humor. So I tell you a joke, whatever. There's da 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 da. Right. So I do have a series that I created called Workplace Tonight, where we use like a late night talk show desk, like a late night set, like the whatever, like the Daily Show or John Oliver Show or Tonight Show, whatever. And we
Okay.
tell jokes.
Yeah,
We put the graphics over the shoulder. We talk about conflict of
nice.
interest policy. We have someone who slides in like Weekend Update. It usually says the dumb
Okay.
thing. So we do things like that where, and then we talk about it because that's a fun, entertaining device. I like music more than that, partially because it's just weird to sing about conflicts of interest. It's weird to like, you don't even have to tell jokes. To have
Yeah,
you're playing,
yeah,
singing these things is earwormy and entertaining without being funny. Do you know what I mean?
I
I found
do.
that
Yeah,
music tends to work great in Asia when we have global clients, in Asia and Europe. And, um, so I find that my company, we do a lot with music for that very reason, because you literally can sing the policy or sing the action. Um,
okay.
it's weird. Um,
But
there's also,
people pick up on that weirdness. The Adam Sandler songs keep going through my head. It's like, but people will remember that stuff and be able to sing along. And you mentioned that the acronym, and I was out the other night. Little quick side story. I was out the other night, and all of a sudden, the guy sitting next to me started saying, "Oh yeah, it's like when I learned the Barney song," and started singing the Barney song. This is a 45-year-old man sitting next to me in a public place, singing the Barney song. I was like, I was captivated on every single word because I had no idea I was going to hear that. Right.
well, like,
So,
well, sorry to keep interrupting you, but I get excited talking about
no, please. Yeah.
yeah, we all know. I mean, I grew up with Schoolhouse Rock.
Hmm.
There's a million examples. Airline safety videos have gotten really, in the last 10, 15 years, have gotten really interesting. They'll have, Southwest has been doing it forever. They tell their jokes during that, because guess what? No one was paying attention.
Right.
Commercials on television, the Geico commercial, the Progressive commercials, they don't make fun of their products. Like, being entertaining doesn't mean to make fun of, right? That is one way to, uh, we would say back in our Second City training that, like, you can punch up, but you can't punch down, right? Meaning like
Okay.
you don't, it doesn't go over as well when you make fun of the less privileged or people who are in compromising situations, but you can poke fun at authority. You can poke fun at the rules. You can find all sorts of ways to kind of find something, a common enemy, if you were to satirize that, and that tends to go over well. So you to use humor doesn't necessarily mean to make fun of, because then it's just bullying, right? so
Right.
uh, so
That would be another compliance issue in training, right? Doesn't that defeat the whole purpose?
Well, it's like, because I get this all the time. It's like, well, we're really conservative. You can't make fun of it. And I'm like, well, we're not. There's a million examples of how, you're not making fun of the issue. We literally made a training this past year for one of our clients on active shooter training, which I really did not want to make. It's like, I was like, I don't want to make this. This is one of the few topics where I'm like, I don't think we should make this funny. Like, you should hire another company to do this. Like, and they said, no, we want you to do it. We like your way you guys approach it. So we created a talk show, and we had a host interviewing an expert. And so we framed it up in something that didn't feel like a training. And then we had a serious discussion, and we called out the nervousness, and we called out the uncomfortableness, and anyway, my point being is, you can take any subject and find a more effective way to deliver it by just looking out at the world, at the things that you watch and you consume, and
Sure.
borrowing that and applying it to that serious subject. Said another way, you could have a conservative company, but your conservative approach to training and communications isn't helping. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Yes. It's getting in the way of what your ultimate goal is, because you're throwing bricks up instead of connecting with people in a way that they will, let's put it pretty bluntly, A, listen, B, not do anything else, right? I mean, if we get that far, sometimes that's an initial win that can begin to move us down the road. You mentioned storytelling, and those case studies came up for me as well as, well, yeah, okay, here we go again with another story. But what I'm hearing, it's about how you frame those things and taking advantage of all the different things that resonate with people to, and I go back to the neuroscience, opening up different parts of the brain at different times allows for things to sink in. You're not going to shove things through a closed door. Or if that synapse isn't open, you can push and you can push and you can push. All you're going to do is cause pain, right? And nobody likes that. So figure out a way to get the message in that resonates with the people that are your audience instead of your own potentially narrow views. And they may or may not be narrow, but you know, take what works and use it. If it doesn't work, try something else.
Right? Don't be so. Afraid. The variety is the spice of life. There's no single way to engage a multicultural, multi-generational, diverse workforce. Everybody's trying to kind of like, I want to buy this one product that everybody's going to love, or build this one trade, but it doesn't exist. So I've discovered this long ago. Like I've made at this point thousands of video content on a variety of different subjects, and I can't get anyone to agree on what they like or they don't like. I will literally talk to clients who are using the same content, and they'll be like, "Well, I like this, but I won't like that because that doesn't work in Asia." And then I'll talk to someone else, and they'll say, "Well, I like this because it works in Asia, but I don't like that." And I'm like, "They just gave me the exact opposite opinion, right?" And it makes me realize that the more effective solution is to try more things, to try a variety of creative things over time. So I'm a big fan of like if there's an important topic, I know there's bandwidth issues, but like if you if you want to have like an annual training, then you should have a touch point, a couple more times a year, depending on the subject. So those touch points should all be different styles,
Mm-hmm.
potentially. Um,
Sure.
or if you're having a monthly communication on something like Speak Up, something that you want to put out pretty regularly, then try 12 different things. Now, some people are going to like some and not the others, and they may engage in that and not that and not that, but they will in that. It mitigates the risk of any one initiative. So strangely enough, even though it's a risk averse community, we should try more things knowing that some are not going to work. And I would argue that the more provocative it is, you may get higher swings, like higher engagement, and also higher, like, I hated it.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
uh,
Yeah.
so you have to have a plan for like, how are you going to deal with that? And I can help with that too, turning, mistakes into teachable moments and higher engagements and things like that. But still, trying more things ultimately will be better for you because you will engage more people over time.
Absolutely. And if your goal is to have those infrequent, or not infrequent, but periodic connections
Yeah.
rather than 1 hour long training, you deliver your substrate in whatever manner and then have those touch points. You try different things to see what works. One of the things that I recall about my initial scientific training, and I'm surprised when my colleagues don't take this approach, we're so afraid of negative reactions, but that's just data. that just tells me that, okay, this group didn't like this. Let's find something that they might like. And we have to try different things in order to do that. The other thing that bubbled up is if I've got 6 touch points across the year, because I've structured my training that way,
Mhm.
and 2 of the 6 hit with each one of my groups, that's 2 additional touch points or 2 additional connections inward and retention than I had if I was to deliver one single annual training a certain way and hope for the best that folks are going to actually be there. I'm winning. I'm not getting 100% of the time, but in order to raise the boat, I don't need 100% of the time. If I can get 20% each time and I do it 6 times, that's 120%. So I'm already ahead.
Yeah.
And so that fear of failure or that judgment of a failure because it didn't land with some folks, here again, it's the yes and. Okay, you're up there on stage and one of your buddies says something that is just so off the wall that the audience doesn't react to it at all. Okay, now what do we do? Do we go back in the corner and, and cry, or do we just try something else to bring those folks back? Talk to me a little bit about those strategies. And that's where, I keep coming back to that strategy or that um, way of doing things in improv. But I think it really serves us well from a mindset standpoint.
Train less, communicate more is a good phrase to have, right? If you need to show a trackable way that everyone took the thing, and then you want to have evidence, make sure you do that, but do that quickly and as efficiently as possible, and then spend your money on things that actually help affect learning and behavior. Uh, right? Like we have to acknowledge the things that we're doing.
Shocking.
If we want to focus on behavior and learning, right, then let's talk about the things that help affect behavior and learning. So, which is you have to get at sort of the social environment and the leadership environment. What I mean by that is like we're all affected by our environment and our peers, which means we need to say things more frequently so that our peers will be like, yeah, we don't cheat on our expense reports, there's a lot of social environments that affect what we do. And so we need to say things more frequently. So train less, communicate more, and make those communications interesting in some way. Make that training interesting in some way because it helps with learning and recall. And ideally, you're getting leaders involved to reinforce these things. I'm a big fan of creating trainings that you then give to a leader and make them um, deliver that training. Is a better way to cascade across the organization. And the only way you get them involved is it's fun and interesting, right? Like it all comes back to
Sure.
so if I'm building a business case, it's like how to affect learning and behavior. We know that things that are fun and interesting and short, frequent, snackable, trackable training and comms is a more effective solution. Then you need to attach to a real problem. So if you want to convince your boss, you don't go, hey, I want to do something really fun. You go, what problems are we trying to solve? Well, no one's using the hotline, or we got a big problem that we have a lot more reports on bullying, or we're having corruption in this region of the world, or whatever the thing is.
Mhm.
Life sciences, off-label promotions are happening, and whatever. So you find a problem, start thinking about, all right, well, we want to increase the frequency of our messaging around this without message fatigue. That's a problem. The way to do that is, hey, we have this interesting way of communicating more frequently with little nudge learning. And we think corporate comms will be on board if we make it fun because we want to stand out. It's all the things that we said, but it's framing around what's the big problem? What's the strategy and tactic? I want to do a monthly communication. I want to do a reinforcement after the live training. I want to create a 10-minute micro learning that I'm going to give to a leader and have them deliver it. I don't think that they're going to do it or allow me access unless we make it beneficial to them. How do we make it beneficial to them? Make your partner look improv rule. Make your partner look good, and they'll make you look good. So
There we
making
go.
it fun and interesting will make them look good. So then they will deliver it on your behalf. I don't know. I know I'm rambling a lot of stuff out quickly, but I really feel like we all intuitively know that being creative and interesting and playful and positive is more effective. We just have to put the effort in to do it, because it does
Yes.
take thought, and time sometimes, but it ultimately is more efficient and effective because they'll learn more, cause fewer problems, they'll reach out for help and support, even if they don't remember everything, I don't know. That's my best way to sort of ramble through some of some of my thoughts.
I think you hit it right on the head. Some of the key messages that come up for me about what you said, Ronnie, is impact and interest is an individual and collective thing that we have to focus on and understand. Psychological safety, you talked about, do we create an environment where bad news is okay to talk about? And when you mentioned one of the business strategy elements of, well, what problem is this trying to solve? And how are we going to use this particular tactic to solve that problem? It's inherently based on doing something better, but how we frame those messages, how we frame the actual message during the training. It's not making fun of the problem or the issue or saying it's okay or not taking it seriously. We're putting it in a package that allows people to connect with it at a different level, at a more human level that they'll engage with. That increases retention. That increases willingness to do the thing we're asking them to do, which inherently leads to compliance. And we do it in a manner that's digestible. And yes, we can't be afraid of spending a little bit of extra time in the training group in that organization. Heck, as a trainer, I would rather put these sorts of things, these sorts of programs together where it's fun, exciting, smaller. I can get more feedback on my program after a 10-minute connection with a small group as opposed to once a year with 1,000 people, and course correct where I need to so I can be more effective as a training professional as well. What have we missed? And in our last couple of seconds here, what would you say is the most, I hate to say most critical, but the takeaway message or two from this discussion around, based on your experience? Is it that this is achievable? Is it that there are barriers that can be broken down? What would you say is the most salient points?
Okay, well, a couple of thoughts. I mean, I think you've said it quite well. Like, first of all, everybody's fun and interesting in their own way. So there's a lot of people who are like, "Well, I'm not the creative type." Yeah, you are. You are when you're, in the right environment with your family and friends. So one is to tap in whatever creativity that you have and spend that time because, not everything has to be funny, but you can use the fun thing to draw attention to the important thing. You can use the fun thing to drive traffic to the important thing. In this case, clickbait might be good if you're driving traffic to a learning resource. You could say the fun thing so they will listen to the very important thing that you're about to say. You have say the fun thing to reinforce the important thing that you're about to say. Like there's all sorts of creative things. So we can't be afraid of, as we say, you can be a conservative company, a conservative person, but your conservative approach to training and communications isn't helping, right? So we need to try more things. We need to be less precious about it. Obviously, make sure you get rid of the any possibility of offense and those kinds of things. You want to do your work around that. But there's examples in our everyday lives where this is successful and it can apply around these very serious subjects. I'll leave you with a quote from Maya Angelou, which I'll give you that one. I'll give you one. I'll give you two. Maya Angelou, I love, which is people won't remember what you say. They won't remember what you did. They'll remember how you made them feel.
Yes.
Right. So it's the whole thing about you, the halo effect of you and your department by doing these fun and interesting things makes you and your department more welcoming and approachable. And that's a big battle. And I'll leave you with John Cleese from Monty Python, who I love, who he said, the main evolutionary significance of humor is it gets people from the closed mode to the open mode quicker than anything else. And I believe that to be true with all my heart. So yes, these things are important, but if we want to actually affect behaviors and help people learn things, be fun and interesting and try new things.
And what do we remember? The things that are fun and interesting and stood out for some reason that were meaningful to us.
That's right. Yeah.
Tremendous. Ronnie, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here on the Quality Grind podcast. Really appreciate your time today. And as I said, we'll provide a link to your website, Learnings and Entertainments, in the show notes so people can go and check you out. Encourage you to, or encourage our listeners to check out Ronnie's profile on LinkedIn and get in touch with him if you feel like he can be of help. And these are all really important messages for us to hear, if nothing else, to build some confidence within our own training communities that there's some justification for how and why we should be trying different things and not necessarily be afraid of falling flat on our face on stage. So.
Thanks, everybody. I appreciate you. Contact me anytime. Happy to talk about this stuff and provide you with links and resources and for a variety of budgets. So good times. I appreciate you.
Thanks very much, sir. Enjoy the rest of your day and be well. Thanks again.
All right. Bye.
If Medvacon can help you and your organization, we're happy to do so. We specialize in the following areas: quality and compliance, validation and qualification services, project management, tech transfers, general and specialized training programs, engineering services, and talent acquisition. If you have general questions as well, feel free to give us a call at any time. We can easily be reached at 833-633-8226 or via our website at www.medvacon.com. Thanks so much, and we look forward to speaking with you.
Thank you for listening to the Quality Grind podcast, presented by Medvacon. To learn more or to hear additional episodes, visit us at www.medvacon.com.